There are things you're doing to your dog right now, today, probably this week, and you think they're completely harmless. Some of them feel like affection, some feel like discipline. A couple of them are things every dog owner does without a second thought. But here's what the research actually shows. Certain everyday behaviors don't just upset your dog in the moment. They chip away at something much deeper, something that, once damaged, takes a long time to rebuild. In this video, we're going through 7 things that quietly erode your dog's sense of safety and trust, backed by real behavioral science, not guesswork. We'll cover the training mistake that leaves your dog genuinely confused about what you want from them, the way you show affection that their brain is wired to register as a threat, and one finding from Linköping University that completely reframes how much your daily emotional state actually affects your dog. Some of these are going to be uncomfortable, because they're things most owners do with completely good intentions. Stay until number 1. It's the one almost nobody talks about, and it might be the most important thing in this video. Let's start here, because this one catches almost every dog owner at some point. You come home, something's been knocked over, something's been chewed, and your dog, before you've even said a word, is already doing that thing. Head low, eyes soft, body curved slightly away. Looks like guilt, right? Here's the science. It's not. What your dog is displaying in that moment is a response to your body language, your tone, your posture, the way you walked in. They're reading that you're unhappy and offering appeasement signals, but they have no idea what triggered it. A study from Stockholm University found that dogs' short-term event memory averages around 27 seconds for specific incidents. Emotional associations last much longer, but the direct link between an action and a consequence needs to happen within the first 30 seconds to register meaningfully. So when you find the chewed shoe an hour later and scold your dog, from their perspective, you've just become unpredictable. They didn't do anything. You walked in and suddenly you were angry. That's not learning. That's anxiety accumulating over time. The fix isn't to let things go. It's to catch things in the moment or not address them at all. Correction delivered an hour after the fact doesn't teach your dog anything except that you're sometimes inexplicably upset, which is exactly the kind of unpredictability that erodes trust. This one is hard to hear because the impulse behind it comes entirely from love. Hugging your dog. To a human, a hug is comfort. It's closeness. It's what you do when you care about someone. For dogs, the closest natural equivalent to one animal placing its limbs over another, restricting movement, limiting escape, is a dominance or conflict gesture. This doesn't mean your dog hates you for hugging them. Many dogs learn to tolerate it, and some genuinely seem to lean in. But a 2016 study published in Psychology Today by Dr. Stanley Coren, who analyzed 250 photographs of people hugging dogs, found that in 81.6% of images, the dog showed at least one stress indicator: turned head, whale eye, flattened ears, licked lips. Most owners looking at those photos saw a happy dog and a happy human. The dogs were telling a different story. The point isn't never touch your dog. It's to pay attention to what their body is actually saying when you do. A dog who twists away, yawns, or licks their lips during a hug is communicating clearly. They just need someone willing to listen. Quick one before we go further. Subscribe to the channel to help us teach the algorithm about our dog-centered content. Of all the things on this list, this one causes the most sustained, low-level damage. Inconsistency. Not cruelty, not neglect, just the ordinary, everyday version of things. Letting your dog on the sofa on Sunday when you're relaxed, then telling them off for the same thing on Tuesday when you're tired. Laughing at the jumping up when they're a puppy, then correcting it when they're full grown. Different rules depending on your mood. Your dog isn't experiencing this as you being lenient or strict. They're experiencing it as the world being random. Behavioral research shows that dogs crave predictability as a core psychological need, not a preference. When outcomes become unpredictable, when the same behavior produces completely different responses depending on invisible variables, dogs don't learn to adjust. They become anxious. They stop trying to read the rules because the rules appear to have no pattern. This is different from the myth that you need to be rigid or dominant with your dog. It's simply about consistency. If something is allowed, let it be allowed. If it's not, let it not be. The line itself matters far less than how reliably it stays in place. Here's the one that genuinely surprised me when I first came across it. In 2019, researchers at Linköping University in Sweden ran a study that most people have never heard of. They took 58 dog owner pairs and measured cortisol, the body's primary stress hormone, from hair samples. Hair cortisol gives you a picture of stress levels over months, not just a single moment. What they found was striking. Dogs and their owners showed synchronized long-term cortisol levels. Owners with high cortisol had dogs with high cortisol, and owners with low levels had dogs with low levels. The researchers concluded that the stress appeared to flow from owner to dog, not the other way around. Think about what that means practically. Your dog isn't just affected by whether you're stressed in a given moment. Their baseline stress, the level their nervous system runs at across weeks and months, is tracking yours. Not because they're choosing to absorb it, because their biology is that tightly wired to yours. This isn't a reason for guilt, it's useful information, because the inverse is also true. Owners with lower long-term stress had dogs with lower long-term stress. How you carry yourself through ordinary life doesn't just affect you. In 2020, researchers in Portugal ran one of the most thorough studies on dog training methods published in recent years. They observed 92 dogs across training schools that used different methods: reward-based, aversion-based, and a mix of both. They filmed sessions, took saliva samples to measure cortisol, and then ran a cognitive bias test on 79 of the dogs. Dogs trained using aversive methods showed more stress behaviors, crouching, yelping, and significantly higher cortisol levels after training than dogs trained with rewards. But here's the piece that goes beyond what most people focus on. The cognitive bias test measured something called optimism versus pessimism in the dog's decision-making. Dogs trained with punishment were more likely to make pessimistic choices when faced with ambiguous situations. They anticipated a negative outcome even when the situation was neutral. Punishment-based training doesn't just teach a dog what not to do. It changes how they expect the world to respond to them. And that expectation doesn't stay inside the training session. It follows them out the door. This is not about being permissive or never correcting your dog. It's about understanding that how you correct matters enormously, because the science shows your dog carries the emotional residue of those methods far longer than the session itself. Shorter point, but worth including, because the impulse is so universal. You see your dog deeply asleep. They look impossibly comfortable, and something in your brain says, pick them up right now. The problem is that deep sleep is when a dog is neurologically at their most vulnerable. Their guard is fully down. When they're suddenly lifted or touched without warning, the brain doesn't always catch up in time, and the stress spike that follows can be significant, particularly in dogs who didn't have early positive socialization with humans. Over time, a dog who's repeatedly startled while sleeping starts doing something subtle but telling. They migrate to harder to reach spots, under beds, behind furniture, high shelves if they're a cat, but you get the idea. They're not being antisocial, they're protecting the one state where they're completely defenseless from the one person who keeps interrupting it. Let them sleep. The 30 seconds of holding them isn't worth what it signals. And here's the last one, the one most channels skip entirely. Your dog doesn't just absorb your stress passively, they also respond to something more specific: how you react when they are stressed. When your dog shows fear, uncertainty, or anxiety, At the vet, during thunder, around strangers, the instinct is to soothe them. Hold them close. Tell them it's okay in a soft, concerned voice. This feels right. It feels like care. But there's a behavioral distinction worth understanding here. Calm, quiet reassurance signals to your dog that you're unworried. And because you're their primary reference point for how to interpret the world, your calm becomes their data. Your panic, even compassionate panic, becomes data too. This doesn't mean ignoring a frightened dog. It means the tone you bring to their fear matters. A steady, relaxed presence, without making the fear the center of attention, tends to help them recalibrate faster than anxious over-reassurance does. Your dog is always watching how you respond to their emotional state. That response is one of the clearest signals they get about whether the world is safe. None of the things on this list require you to be a different kind of person. They don't require more money, more training, or more hours in your day. They just require paying attention to what your dog is actually communicating and being willing to adjust. The relationship your dog has built with you isn't fragile. It's remarkably resilient. But it is built from thousands of small moments. And the small moments where you're consistent, calm, and responsive, those are the ones that compound. Your dog isn't keeping score. They're building a picture. And every day you show up the same way, the picture gets clearer. If this gave you something, hit like and subscribe so you don't miss what's coming next. And drop a comment. Tell me your dog's name and one thing you're going to do differently after watching this. Every single comment gets read. See you in the next one.